Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor. The fallout from the Durham Report continues in this town, as well it should. Yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokesperson for the White House, was finally asked a question. It was the last question of the briefing. Here's how it went.
What is the White House reaction to Special Counsel Durham's report on how the FBI handled the Trump-Russia probe?
I would leave it to the Department of Justice to speak to.
Talks often about how he
There
wants
you
the
go.
DOJ.
Yeah, she ain't going to say anything about it. I'll leave it to the Justice Department. The Justice Department isn't saying anything about it either. That's how they play this game. But it's funny, back in 2018, during the witch hunt, during Operation, what did they call it again? The Crossfire Hurricane. How soon we forget. Karine Jean-Pierre had a lot of opinions about it. She expressed it on MSNBC. Watch.
I want an answer. Do you think he's guilty?
I think he's crazy.
I think he's guilty?
Yes.
What's he guilty of?
I think he's guilty because he knows.
What did he do?
Well, he's the one who can answer that. I think.
No, what is he? You said he's guilty. What's he guilty of?
Well, I think he feels that there is something that's going to come out about Russia. Remember, there's money laundering. He knows what the Trump organization has been doing.
Go ahead.
You're right about that. Oh, we miss you, Chris Matthews. Let's bring in Sean Davis, a gentleman who actually was right about this story from the beginning. Of course he was. He's the CEO of The Federalist. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
That's quite a spectacle to behold, isn't it? They're the White House spokesperson now demurring, oh, we're not going to comment on that. She had plenty of opinions.
Well, I love that she was asked a question about Biden's thoughts and said she would have to defer to the Department of Justice as if they somehow speak for Joe Biden himself. But you really can't blame her. What can she possibly say? The entire Russia collusion investigation was a hoax. It was a gaslighting operation against the American public. Everyone knows it now. The Department of Justice knows it. We know in very granular detail that the whole thing was cooked up by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC, that it was full of lies, fabricated out of thin air. And then it was done entirely to weaponize the U.S. government and its surveillance and law enforcement powers against not just Trump, but against the American people. So I almost sympathize with her. What could she possibly say in response to that?
And of course, Sean, there were many of us, well, a handful of us, actually, not many of us, who reached that conclusion pretty early on because we were following the facts at hand. We didn't have anonymous sources who were saying, oh, this is what's really going on behind the scenes. The people who were relying on anonymous leaks, they're the ones who believed this stuff. But the actual facts at hand told you, obviously, that this came from the Clinton campaign. Just follow the money at Fusion GPS. So why is there no circumstances, any sort of vengeance against these people who got it so wrong? They've all been rewarded.
Well, because that's how it works now. That's how the system works. The media, especially on the left, does not exist to report on facts or to verify accuracy. They are a weaponized propaganda arm of the left-wing activists and the DNC in the country. And so they look back on this and they don't, in my view, they don't look back and see, wow, we really got this one wrong. We should be better next time. They look back on this and they say, guys, we nailed it. We damaged Trump. We crippled his presidency. We poisoned half of the American public. And it was a rousing success. If anything, they're going to give themselves more awards after this as a result of the Durham Report, because it takes real skill as a propagandist to push this stuff and make it work when every single thing they reported is a lie. So they're just going to sit back and pat themselves on the backs for what they did.
We need to expand on this a little bit, Sean, because I think people mistakenly think that they're biased in the media or they were duped. I'm seeing that a lot. Oh, they got duped by this one. You and your editor-in-chief at The Federalist, Molly Hemingway, and a lot of my colleagues at Town Hall and the Town Hall media sites, we're actually taking a different approach on this. They weren't duped and they didn't have a bias. They actually were part of this story, willingly part of it. They were ready to actually oppose Donald Trump by using their power in the media, and they did that. They actually drove it.
Exactly. They were basically Al Cowlings driving a white Bronco with OJ in it. Like, they weren't duped at all. They were all in on it. Every single one of them knew what they were doing. And a good example of that was the FISA spy warrant application against Carter Page. So the DOJ has this bogus Steele dossier. They have no proof that any of it is true. They leak information about it to Michael Isikoff at Yahoo News, who publishes an article on it. And then they go and they use that article, which they were the source of, in this application to get a spy warrant. Like, they all knew exactly what they were doing. It was all a game to them. They weren't interested in facts. They were interested in damaging their political opponents.
And Sean, I want to expand on the FISA warrant for Carter Page for a moment here, because there was a moment in time late in 2017, almost a year into this whole thing, when Devin Nunes, then the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, revealed facts about how they got that FISA warrant. And Adam Schiff, the ranking member for the Democrats, he came out with his own memo. And there were people, you and I, were in the right of center media sphere, okay? There were those who wrote at places like the Weekly Standard, I'm talking about Steve Hayes, or at National Review, Jonah Goldberg, David French. It was at that moment in time where they had two sets of facts in front of them, and they could decide to believe Devin Nunes, a Republican congressman, chair of the House Intelligence Committee from California, or Adam Schiff, of all people. And Sean, these so-called conservatives chose Adam Schiff.
They did. They're still choosing Adam Schiff. I mean, Jonah Goldberg this week was having a meltdown over being called to account for getting duped by Adam Schiff. Because I do think in Jonah Goldberg's case, he really is just an idiot. So I think being duped might be an appropriate word there. But yeah, you had all these so-called conservatives who were walking hand in glove with the left on this, and they haven't come out and apologized. They haven't come out and said, "Oh, we're sorry, we got it wrong." In Goldberg's case, he came out and said, "You know what? How could I possibly have known it was all a sham? But you know what? Donald Trump deserved it anyway." Like that's how the leading lights of the former so-called center right now conduct themselves. They refuse to admit wrong, and they just double down on lies. It's pathetic.
Meanwhile, they charge a hefty fee for that dispatch subscription. It's quite something to see. Sean, we're talking about this as if it's in the past. The FBI put out a statement. Oh, yeah. We put corrective actions in place. Trust us to police ourselves. This isn't in the past. We're seeing it play out right now before our eyes with the Hunter Biden investigation. This needs to be stopped immediately. What needs to be done? Is it reform at the FBI, or is it a complete dismantling?
Oh, I think it needs to be torn down to the foundation. We're not even talking about peeling off the drywall and leaving the studs. The whole thing needs to be torn up, and the earth needs to be salted in its place. And in fact, John Durham noted this in his report. He said, I could come here and I could recommend a whole bunch of new rules and regulations, but because there's no integrity at the FBI, because it is so rotten and inept and corrupt, what good are new rules going to do? They had rules previously that they all broke. They had a rule, you're not allowed to lie in spy applications against American citizens. And they did it anyway, 4 times. So I think the entire edifice, and not just the FBI, the entire intelligence community, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, they have been weaponized, not against America's foreign enemies, but against half of the American public. They've been weaponized against the American people. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. The FBI is a domestic terror organization. It seems to exist to do nothing other than terrorize the American public on behalf of the ruling regime. And we said in 2017, if they don't fix this thing, if people don't go to prison for this hoax, they're going to do it again. And you know what? They did it. They did it in 2020 with the Hunter Biden laptop, and they're going to do it again. Until this thing is dismantled root and branch, they're going to do it until they're not allowed to do it anymore.
Well, we're spending a little bit of time this week to feature those who did get it right because they followed the facts. And Sean Davis and the team at Federalist, you certainly are included in that category. Thank you for joining us tonight. Great talking with you.
Thank you, sir.
We've got more. We've got plenty more. Keep it here. You're watching O'Connor Tonight. It's the Salem News Channel.